You also have approved policy 8703 for immunization and physical examination of students. Is that something we can discuss?
That's our agenda. We'll get to that item. The school committee will be discussing it.
Okay.
Thank you.
But we're not allowed to have a dialogue about that until it's on the agenda.
I can recognize the audience if I choose to, but the school committee can discuss it. Thank you. Okay. We have a presentation tonight, Beyond School Walls, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Young Mentor Partnership.
So I know we met, Mrs. Fish and I met with Representative from John when I was here this evening to talk a little bit about a mentoring program that we are going to begin for Metcalf schools, consistent with an area of our strategic plan around building relationships with the community. So I asked him to come tonight and just give a brief overview to the committee so you are aware of this new initiative that we have.
Well, there's two parts to Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and thank you for having us. We have two sides to Big Brothers, Big Sisters. What you normally see is children just going to the home, volunteers, going to the home and picking up a child and taking them out in the white screen, talking to them, building a relationship. What we're doing here is we're going to take children out of the school and bring them into a setting where they're going to be able to learn and mentor at the same time. We're trying to give children the opportunity to see beyond school walls and know what they have out there for them. So getting them interested in sciences is huge for us and huge for the school. STEM, STEAM, all those are becoming really, really big right now. And part of Amgen's focus was to do community partnerships and also contribute to STEM, STEAM learning. This year is going to be biology. This year they want to do 20 to 25 kids from the 6th grade at Metcalf School. Everything's paid by Amgen. The whole thing. Transportation, everything. All that they need are 20 minds that want to go there and learn. We have a process that's really extensive that will screen volunteers and then we'll screen the children that are brought to us from Metcalf, and then we're going to match them up. And when we match them up, that's when we see magic. Basically, that's kind of a brief overview. I mean, I'll take some questions. If people have questions, I can talk about it all night. That's why. He's very enthusiastic. I'm really excited.
I saw that you brought the pamphlet.
I did. I brought a bunch of pamphlets. I was going to bring a PowerPoint presentation. I figured nobody wants to see me right here for 20 minutes talking about how awesome I am.
You said volunteers are screened, BCI, DCI checks.
Yes, DCYF. And on top of it, they work at Amgen, and when you get in that building, it's like amazing.
And where did you guys go? Is it out in the community?
No, they're going to go right into Amgen. They're going to go from the school. They're going to be bused from the school in the morning during their enrichment period, and they're going to go right into Amgen. When they get into Amgen, they're going to meet at the spot that they're supposed to meet at, and then they're going to start biology curriculum fun time that they're going to have. That right now is kind of what we're looking at for curriculum and what Amgen is looking for. We're kind of back and forth, but they're paying for it. So we'll also, when we do get the curriculum, I told Jim that I would run the curriculum also by school, make sure they approve it. Everyone involved will be screened, DCYF, state, national, Yeah, we do a DMV check sometimes too, but they're not driving their cars. We probably do a DMV check for them.
Who's driving, transported by road?
They're going to be transported by a bus company, but it's going to be paid for by Amgen. One of the professional bus companies around here, I think we did some work together, Mr. Ross, and came up with some numbers that we're in. Whatever company, I guess.
Will they be, I guess, sitting with a person from Amgen to see what they actually do, or will be
One-to-one mentoring, that's what we do. We do one-to-one mentoring, so it will. Every child will be matched up with one person from Amgen, and they will have the opportunity to do the curriculum, and then if, I guess, law allows or Amgen allows, they can go to the area, see what they do, see how they do it, gown up, there's pictures of everybody gowning up, going in, you know, that's an experience.
And which grade level are we talking?
We're talking about 6 right now. This could potentially be something that could be, you know, great. So, it's a pilot right now. We did it in Woonsocket last year. It worked out pretty well, but we didn't do the Beyond the School Walls. We did a different program. It was kind of the opposite, but similar results came out of it. It was based on STEM and STEAM, things like that. So, yeah, it's pretty extensive. I'm excited about it, as you can tell. I mean, I can't wait to get off the ground. We've been working on it for a while. And it's really hard to put all the pieces together. And we'd like to eventually have the same group that went, go again the 7th, and then start a new group, the 6th, and then have that, and follow them through. That's the main focus of the entire project. Because with Amgen, it wasn't something they wanted to invest in for a few minutes. You know, they wanted to do football.
So maybe a question for Ms. Rhode. So as far as the selection process, how are we going to describe that? Is that what
Well, you know, we're working on that right now, like what the curriculum's going to look like. We want to hear from Amgen exactly what they want in the student selection, but we want to make sure it's a diverse group.
Okay.
Children that are interested in the science or we think could be sparked by the world of science that might not be.
Sure.
Yeah, so, but that's all in development, so we'll
Okay.
get definitely past that point.
And to answer that as well, we started with that, Carol and I, a while back, and she already had the wheels kind of turning on as to what, that was the first question she asked. She was like, how is the selection process? And she's been kind of working on that.
It's a multi-step thing too.
Yes.
You know, it's certainly a self-selection piece. The student really has to be interested in doing it. So their heart really has to be in, because it's a big, you know, thing for them. They go, I think, 15 times.
They go 15 times.
Like every other week for most of the year. And
They're going to go from October to somewhere in the end of the year, 15 times every other week, an hour and a half. And it's
How many kids altogether?
20. We're looking around 20 to be a good, be a solid number. We can go as high as 25, and of course, you know, where it takes us down the line. But I think we just need that pretty sure.
One of the things we also talked about in May is that there will be a school chaperone that goes with the children on the bus, and that may change one week, maybe Carol or maybe social worker, I may go meet, etc. So there'll always be somebody from the school on the bus with the children.
And 2 things that just came out of this actually very recently. We were able to hire another person on our staff, and she is going to be exclusive on the project. So she would ride the bus with them as well, following them through the whole process. We have a match support process that we go through, and we talk to everyone, see how they're doing, report back to us. We do that on a regular basis. So we also have, by the end of it, there'll be a lot of data, and if there are any questions in between, everything's always covered, and everything's in the computer, and everything is a consent form away from the same day, you know. So everything's recorded, everything we've done. And by the end of it, they're going to throw a huge party. They're going to have They're gonna have everybody come, they're gonna have all the parents come. I'm sure, our marketing agents and their marketing agents were already talking about 10, 12, 6, they want them all there, they want the whole thing. And even the kickoff, they were talking about marketing that. And Metcalf being at the forefront of that, and the district itself is doing pretty good.
The nice program like this eventually would turn into internships for the high school students.
Unbelievable. And that's what kind of this does. It not only gets them interested, but it gives you the community partner, like you said, look,
I have a question for Bob or Jen. Just the legalities. If something were to happen on the bus, or if something were to happen at the engine, I'm sure you could get a release from the parent that they would agree to all this and whatnot. But then, would our insurance or whatever cover the child outside?
It's just okay. If you're sanctioned, go to the house. Ocean State's going to do shut-ups.
Sounds like a great opportunity.
I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. It really is. And it's special because my children went to Metcalf, and it's real special in my heart because I saw them go through the school, and I wish they could go, but we lived here for a while, and I lived here for a while, so I'm really happy to make this happen here. And the logistics just, it makes sense, it's right there. And that's why I want to get into this school after, and then we'll keep rolling with that. That's great. Yeah, they have plenty of money too, so we'll see. Let's see what we can do. Let's start having some fun with them. Like I said, if this pilot works, we're going to have something that's the best, first, and never done before, so nobody knows how big it can get. So we can test how big it can get.
So the curriculum will be documented, right? And the only reason I ask that, because I would assume that year after year, we want to make improvements.
Absolutely. It will be documented, and there are assessments at the beginning and at the end.
And we've had conversations too about what is the sixth grade science curriculum,
Right.
which it begins with ecosystems, and so they're going to try to make some connections with biology, with their ecosystems.
And Amgen's really creative with that, and they really like that, and they're really creative in the way they think. I was talking to them a little bit about the biology thing, and they started just going off in all these areas. And my first major was biology, so I have like the three-wheeler, you know what I mean? As far as biology goes, and they're in the spaceship, and they have some really great ideas coming off, and I'm like, wow, I never even thought that would have been part of biology, but yeah, everything. So they're really excited.
What is the recruitment process for the mentors for this program?
All right, from start to finish, we're gonna just kind of advertise, go in there and see who wants to do it. A big part of the goes Andrew.
Okay.
All of the mentors are going to be workers from Andrew. Okay. I guess one with
Any questions?
So biology was chosen first. Is there a chance that maybe chemistry is next?
It's a possibility. Biology came from Andrew. They said, we're going to give you money. Make this happen, and we want it around biology. And that's kind of where biology came from. Last year it was STEM, and you can do anything with STEM. So you kind of went in a couple of different areas, but this year they were biology.
I want to thank you so much.
Yeah,
Carol,
welcome.
Dragon,
Welcome.
Marie. I have to tell you guys, it's a dream of mine, literally,
Cool.
to get the local businesses in partnership with our school to make this connection.
Yeah, they brought the big sisters, we'll make it happen.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Any questions, obviously, I can be reached.
I don't actually have a question, but I did want to just say thank you to Carol and thank you to Jim for getting this all going in the summer before I was on board and while I was transitioning. I really appreciate it because we are so excited. You've done a lot of work.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
Much
Thanks, John.
appreciated.
All right, thanks.
Thank you so much.
from a logistics perspective, because this might be considered a field trip, will this come back to us going forward? Because all we did was kind of hear, we didn't vote on it.
No, well, the field trip requests are handled the way that they always handled it. The ones that come to school committee are usually the overnight, the out-of-state ones. They don't all come to the school committee, but they go through that.
So I'll just consenting that this is okay, or to do this, or just for us.
I guess does it need
What
to
are you
be-
looking for from us?
Doesn't need to be sanctioned in order for us to be covered under anything, is that, I guess that's the question.
So, just like there are several field trips that happen, they fill out the form and it comes through the internal process, that some of them don't go to school committee, they're all sanctioned because they come through that formal process, which is what
So you don't need it.
we don't officially need anything formal because it's not out of state, it's not overnight, it's like an internal field trip.
This is like a program. This isn't a field trip. This is learning. This is, yeah. So I mean, you certainly, I would look at it that way.
Just want to make sure that we're not missing something.
This sounds great.
Yeah.
Sign me up. Let's go.
I'd like to make a motion to move up on the agenda, item 6A, approval of the Washington DC trip.
All in favor? Mr. Wallace?
We have our annual proposal, I think, in your packet. We're meeting with the parents right now. We're going in 14 days. This is for next September's trip.
It's a fabulous field trip. You guys did an awesome job. I'll make a motion to approve.
All set.
Any other comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? I read it too. So we have the consent agenda.
Consent agenda is the regular minutes and the special meeting minutes of August 12th and 19th. There is an athletic appointment, the JV girls soccer coach. The email communication from the teacher that we hired for the .5 math position, who ended up taking a full-time job in the district, so she can start here officially. This is her resignation. Among the bills, and then several families who have submitted their paperwork from school.
Some of us pulled special meeting minutes.
Yes, please pull Wednesday or August 19th special meeting.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda. Minus the special.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed, motion carries. Feels we're on the special meeting minutes now. Now I'm not present, so.
I'll make a motion to accept the special meeting minutes.
Second. All in favor? Opposed, abstentions? Two abstentions. Okay, correspondence, we have the district charter with the amendments, and we all be referendum.
No, I mean, I just wanted to also include the communication that I had with our attorney. He had already submitted the language changes even before, just so that we would know what the changes would look like probably if the amendments passed. But I did incorporate all of the amendments and then send it back to him to review last time to get
this is slightly different from our last projection, but this will probably be the last one for 2014-15 until the audit's completed. I'm expecting, you can see the bottom line is still very strong for us, and I don't anticipate too much movement on that. Come on. So, very good.
Thank you. Okay, we have the monthly subcommittee reports and the monthly status reports. We have any questions or comments on those?
I have a question about Jim's report. How are the staff recognized for the various honors, the honor roll, the high honors, and perfect attendance?
Well, it's really a verbal recognition. We do the presentation in front of the entire staff. The perfect attendance individuals get donuts cards. And then the teacher of the year, of course, that's a plaque. Yeah, and the finalists get the apples as well. That's something we started doing last year, the attendance recognitions.
I just want to say I attended that for the first time this year. It was a great event. Great welcome back, I should say. And Jim did an amazing job with that day. And these recognitions that we have are they're so well received. And everybody's, all the faculty so supportive of their fellow faculty members, and it was nice. Business, the Washington trip. So we have the sound amplification book, so everybody can hear my voice. Mr. Ross.
Actually, the superintendent worked on this with our IT director, so.
I actually have the quotes in front of me, but because it is an expense that's over whatever the 2,500, it needs to come to the school committee for approval so that we can place the order. This is something that was included in the budget, have an amplification system for the school committee meetings. The final quote that we came in just after the last meeting so that we had three to look at. And again, I've been working with the IT department, Mr. Bain, and he identified the right system that would match whatever the hardware is that we need here. Everybody quoted the exact same system. The only difference was whether or not they included the hard case in the quote, but I incorporated that information into the note section. The quotes were all very close to each other, within a couple of $100, and he has recommended that we go with the Valley Communication System, and they were kind of in the middle of, they were in the middle. I mean, if you count the fact that they did include the hard case system, but the Manhattan company did not, so if we added that in, they would be higher. And then we have another company that they produced in Texas. But really, because the prices are so close, and again, it is all the same system, to have somebody that is close to home who can handle questions and technical assistance and so forth, that was the recommended company. So, again, I have copies of the actual quotes in front of me if anybody's interested in seeing them. But with your approval, I will place the orders.
Is the whole system small enough for you to carry it
Yes.
back and forth?
And we would leave it
Store
here.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it would just become part of the setup.
I have to speak to this.
other direction, the hair's in the way, I think it's difficult for our clerk to pick up some of the conversations and the important aspects of motions. And the fact that our minutes reflect, it's captioned that the DVD is an augment to our minutes and should be referred to as the official record of the meeting. If we can't hear ourselves, then the audio system that is included with a small digital camera like that is not going to pick it up either. So I'm very appreciative personally for the accommodation. I think it serves the public, and I think it's imperative that it be included so that we have a complete record of the school committee proceedings. Thank you.
Okay, we have a question.
Well, that's a great point, Terry, that is this system somehow tying into any kind of recording system that, because that won't solve the problem of maybe the camera not picking up what we're saying, unless there's a way to.
Well, it'll project the conversation.
So it's really just a projection. There's no way to.
Okay, clear. With a motion.
Second.
Great. Okay, we have a motion to approve the ballot communication systems. And an amount. Amount of what was 3473.
And that's the actual.
Okay. Okay. Third second. Please second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Thank you so much. Okay, the STEM Park project. See, people hear that.
So the STEM part, there's two enclosures in your packet. One from myself asking for the actual request for the difference between the grant and the lump sum price that was submitted by Narragansett Improvement. At the committee's request, they asked for some additional information regarding the project and a schematic of what the STEM park might look like, and the superintendent included that. And if the committee would, I would just like to recognize a member in our audience who is a parent volunteer, Mike Sevelia. And he is, I'll let Mike speak for himself, but he has been awesome on this project. And he really backwards engineered this job from a $250 low bid to the $124,000 lump sum. And has just been a great asset, just a joy to work with. A consummate pro, if I could say that. So I'll begin to speak, and then I know that a couple of members asked, what did the $124,000 bid that, lump sum bid that Narragansett, Rhode Island, that they submitted included. And then Mike has some additional information. So I'll begin with the lump sum price. So as the memo states, I did go through, that memo is made more sense to me than maybe you folks reading it, but when we get to the capital asset, for the sake of expediency, I'll cover that when I get there. But it did not qualify at this point for any sort of line reimbursement because we're just not on Rhode's radar for this project. And there was no way it was going to happen prior to December. And above and beyond that, it's a priority 5, so it's not a safety and a health requirement. So that came off the table. So then we were left with closing the the Champion grant of $99,000 in round numbers, and the project cost of $124,000. And in consult with the superintendent, we just concluded that, given our fund balances and what we're going to be able to do with other areas of our capital improvement, maybe it's the time now just to get this using the capital. So that's really what we're looking for. So $24,090 to close the gap between the lump sum price submitted by Narragansett Improvement and the Champlain grant of $99,010. And I think if you were to look at this packet, the very back page, if the committee would, I would just turn this over to Mike, if you don't mind, because he can speak to it from a much more qualified standpoint than I can.
I need to ask for the video, the audio of your introduction. Is that right? Okay. That really helpful. I'm not accustomed to that kind of fanfare. Usually when I go before a board, I am the agent of change, sometimes not welcome, so this is a pleasant departure from that. I'm Mike Zavalia, I'm a parent in the school system. I'm also an engineer. And I received a request, as did I think everyone who had children in Mrs. Henry's class, for any assistance that people could provide towards developing plans for the STEM park. And I was quite excited when I heard that other gentleman presenting his program, which touches on the need to improve our science programs. Because I don't know if anyone's paying attention, but all we ever hear is that they're lagging behind in science, technology. So I think part of the issue has been the lack of understanding between the book learning the children are getting and then the real world applications of those lessons can be very dry from the textbook. So the STEM part is envisioned as a mechanism to actually immerse the students in hands-on real world application of some of the things that they're learning in the classroom right next door. So that's pretty exciting for an engineer, anybody in the technical field. Thought that we could reach out. I've said if even one student is inspired by something that they do in the STEM part and chooses to go to a location in the sciences or engineering, I think it's worth it. And I kind of think we're being one of those students. The concept plan envisioned by the science teachers was pretty well thought out. We developed that last year, put it forth for the Champlain grant, were approved for it, and then, as is natural, you take the concept, advance the design to the more complete plans. And of course, in doing that, little things get added here and there, the size of certain things expands, you add features that increase the cost. To the point where we bid the project, and obviously the project bids came in higher than the Champlain plan. There was an anticipation that this project would require a phase approach, would lay the groundwork with the initial phase, and then augment that with subsequent funding, possibly from other sources, possibly from the Champlain Foundation again, before the park vision is fully realized. But what these plans represent is probably 80% of getting us to that stage where we have everything in there that the teachers want to have. So, stand here before you, ready to answer any questions that you might have about technical aspects of the park, design, concept or approach, Narragansett improvement, construction.
Is that a bigger model of what we have? Because I can't see this.
It is. That's a cool joke. When we reduce four size,
I'm like this.
4x36 is not up to 8.5 by 11. It's still a 1 2 max.
Just, I'm very interested, so it's, that's nice.
I can get full-size plans that
Right.
are 4x36 if you want that. We also have the PDF form as well, so you can look at it.
Mike, maybe just to help the committee out with some of their decision making. So in the superintendent's packet that he provided. There are things like learning station tables and seats, stream tables, physics tower. Are those currently in there, or those are out there now?
In designing the project, we kind of realized that we're going to be over the grant amount. And what we looked to do was remove any elements that would be more efficient for the school to acquire directly. Learning tables, I saw them pictorially when I was looking at this with Holly. And then I actually saw one in person. I went to Great Wolf this summer for a weekend. All it is a little hexagonal table that has built-in seats around it and sit 5, 6 kids at it. And there's no reason to pay a contractor handling and overhead to buy those things and have them shipped. It's a pretty readily available stock item that the school could buy directly. So it's one way to try to save money. There were a few of the other fixtures or elements that we did that with. The hydraulic stream table was another one of those things. It's pretty easy to get. They have them online. Physics tower, I think we talked about trying to get participation from the community, get a carpenter or somebody to come in and kind of help us design it and actually put it together. So those things are not included in the base price. For the $124,000 give or take bid of variance improvement, we'll be getting all of the groundwork, so to speak, walkways, conduits, electrical, conduit run out for future electrical, if they want to do serious power and lighting, water service for the hydraulics table and the hydrant there, tree clearing, general site management.
And they're going to put all the bases, so if it's a drop-in, bolt-in cement kind of foundation, they're going to need that for us. So for the tables, if we purchase the tables and they need to be...
The tables don't actually get bolted in.
Okay.
You don't have to bolt them in, so they're movable. There's that flexibility if you ever have a time when you want to move a group of them together. So the bid would include leveling an area so that you can put the table down, but again, that wasn't intended to be necessarily a permanent fixture. That's it.
So that was my biggest question with this whole thing. I asked Mr. Ross. So it looks like, just so we get a handle on what we're doing, so it looks like you said, what I thought I was reading, this provides all the groundwork and gets everything up and ready.
Yep.
And then, so as far as the items that are needed to, I guess, use this network in a learning fashion, we need all of the other pieces. So, are we looking tonight to approve Narragansett improvement so we can get going and get the grant using it? And then can we immediately come before us for all this other stuff? Because to me, if we're going to spend this money, we need to get it, just want to get it done.
I love that.
That's just coming from me. But I mean, it's a lot, so it's $124,000. So this is, like I said, getting us up and ready. But to me, I'd like spring to roll around and our kids are going out there and using it and learning. I don't want to get to spring and, okay, everything's done, now we've got to figure out who's going to buy a table, who's going to buy a tower or a, physics tower. So it's got to be.
I had prepared a rough estimate for some of those other items and came in at about $25,000. The only other element that was far more expensive than I originally envisioned was creating that circular amphitheater, and started at 50, seating for 50 people, we upped to 200, backed it off to 50 because the big component of the pricing was the cost of the tent. We did 2 alternates because it was that uncertainty of which one we want to do. The first alternate, in my mind, our preference was the steel radial, so it's curved. Eventually, no back. It has that little indication all the way along. You can sit down. That is bolted down and secured pad, you have 2 rows of that in a circle around a single area. It's very nice, different colors. It's durable, it lasts for a long time. I think it really looks nice. It's also expensive to do it great because it's really a custom job. And the fabricating that is unstoppable if you're taking it off the shelf. There are some alternatives that we discussed that instead of doing radial, you could do straight sections and then attach them on angles all the way around. That I think would still have the same visual effect and probably be a lot less expensive.
So you said 25,000 for all these pieces, and that piece is how much?
We still have to get prices. That's one of the things that we asked the contractor to look into. He got prices from the manufacturer based on the radial for 100 seats. We need him to give us prices for the alternate, which would be the straight sections, however long we can get them attached, just to keep
What was the cost of the seats rating? And that's a reasonable question.
Boy, what was alternate one?
What was the low, 40 and then 70? Or
Yeah.
that far off?
Yeah, it was $40,000 to $50,000.
So we'll bring back to that base bid that was right.
So is that piece, is this for an outdoor classroom? That's for the outdoor classroom use?
It could be multi-function. It could be for outdoor classrooms. For 50 kids, it could be multiple classrooms at one time. You could do it for small ceremonies if you wanted to have a ceremony out there or something. You got that number of people you can attend.
I'm just looking to see if that can be a different phase. So if we can get 25,000, can get us all these workstations, so kids can go out there and learn. And that one piece where we're having, whether it be, a class or that piece could be a phase. We're trying to get this project done. We're looking for it.
Yep. I think the bench could be a later phase, as well as some of the other things we talked about at the amphitheater. We originally had pedestals for lighting. We took those out because we weren't going to do the lighting now anyway. We could go back without disrupting very much and put those pedestals in. But overhead lighting for the area, possibly. Wiring for power if you wanted to, for the sound system or something out there, plugging in for something. They talked about some sort of a sail cover that would be mounted to posts that would go up and actually provide some shade. All of those things are not integral to the educational component. It would really make a nice area at some point. It could be a later phase.
So to get this to a learning facility, 25,000 more?
On top of the 24,900 being requested tonight, I'd say 25,000 would get us the learning tables, the physics tower, the screen table, and
The lagoon and the swing set?
that's included. And actually, there's no swing set for liability reasons. We could have stricken it from the plan. The lagoon is basically a curved area, and what we're going to do is leave spaces between some of the curved sections so you can put a divider, and then we're going to put in different types of granular materials. So we'll have crushed stone, we'll have sand, we'll have loam, mulch, and it could be varied and mixed at times, but I'm a dirt dog engineer, so I like the geotechnical stuff. So I got into engineering department because I used to play in the sandbox all the time. So seeing the way that
You know, you need to go to Amgen.
What's that?
You need to go to Amgen.
I do not need to go there. They don't have a lot of dirt there. They had a water when they were building it. But I think that's one of those things when I was in school today, the geotech lab, was really neat to see tests that were done with different types of materials that we would use for different applications. Give kids that exposure in that area. It's kind of amazing. What's the other things Phil I'm trying to keep in mind? We're trying to keep in mind. These are high school kids. They are coming out from elementary school. They're learning, but they're not adults yet. So there still has to be that kind of fun. Kind of, geez, we're not learning. We're up in sandbox. We're looking out, but in So that's included in the price. So it really is the learning station tables, the physics tower, the stream hydraulics, and then, not sure what form it will take, but for the biology areas, the raised planting beds, so that they can cultivate different plants, and the vegetables, and the shrubs, things like that.
So, can we add money to this? I realize to talk first, but I mean, okay.
I wanted to choose Amgen, actually, because he said he had
My only concern is, you know, off the top of my head, I would say the additional 24,000, the 25,000, not a problem. But we're gonna want that extra 100,000 at some point. I don't see that, not right now. And not even maybe next year based upon the needs.
They can't use this. They can't use this without these items. That's why I asked all these questions.
Well, I understand that, and that's why I'm a little concerned about the whole thing. I'm not concerned about the extra $24,000. And I'm not even concerned about the $25,000 beyond that to make it somewhat functional. But everything that I've read and heard indicates that on top of that, there's going to be another need for $100,000. And I don't see that for at least 2 years.
The learning pieces, though.
That's absolutely correct. That there would be more money to bring about some of those bells and whistles that the finishing touches. But the plan for you, the plan that other people don't know, is complete in its capability to serve as 4 outdoor learning classrooms and not be dependent on any of those other things that may not be funded in their entirety, even at any one time. It might be a progressive approach where there's a grant available, perhaps again from Champlin, or perhaps from Amgen, if they want to do a tie-in from Metcalf instead to the junior high school, they might be willing to give some money toward that. So nothing that we're talking about for the future will compromise the value of the set farm. Those are all things that would add to the aesthetic.
Yeah, but it also, I think, when you mentioned shade, you know, the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about that amphitheater is weather. You know, I guess it's outdoors. You can't control the weather. We actually use it if it's raining without some sort of protection.
I would venture to guess you probably wouldn't use the classrooms too much unless you were doing something specifically, which actually, one element of the STEM park is force paving. So you would want to go outside when it's raining and that, by that price. You're right, the limitations as an outdoor space on when you can use it. But I don't think that's any much different than every other outdoor facility that you have, whether it's a tennis court or football field, track.
I don't know, they like to play in all kinds of ways.
We can play it up, that's the way out there. And so.
I remember having decontaminated vehicles after my son home.
Is it strictly for the junior high, or could the other schools have access to it?
There's nothing that we design that policy and inter-school decision. So I don't know, in terms of how nice the seniors are to the high schools.
Sure.
But I could see where there would be value, potential value for senior high school students.
I think, just if I could, when you look at that aerial and then you go out there and actually, you can just see down the road that there's going to be, that whole area, I think, will look nice in about 5 or 6 years, you know, where they start to tie into the greenhouse and the whole, so there'll kind of be like this seamless transition between.
Yeah, Bob is in this space, and he's already picking my brain for ideas for the ground parking lot next door, so he's doing his job.
So one thing that I've had experience with Chamber Foundation and still have, and one thing that they really like to see is progress. And they have in the past kicked in more money the project is actually taking hold and working. So one way to do this is let's get it to the point where it's usable, it's functional, but we keep them involved and invite them over, let them see it. Because I had a lot of very good success in doing it that way, and they will put more money into it because they don't want to see it bad. They want to see it fixed. Especially when this is purely educational. We're not talking about. So again, if we didn't approve this, I'd get a copy of that drawing, get it right to them, say this is what we're doing, and just keep them involved. They're very willing to work with. They like to visit.
We have our examples that we need to have a visit, and they want their name on successes. And this would be a success. Again, to your concern, Champion Foundation is just one potential source. Again, I heard Jen express which is with Farmland, district, with them as potential sources. And so is that other local resources that we haven't even heard from, where if they can see what's out there being built, they might come forward and say, yes, I want to be involved. So it is a leap of faith, but I don't think it's very big. I can't be very far, and
my only, like I said, my only concern is that it's the I want that once we start down this road, people don't want to see completion. So, right now, based upon the finances, I can see us getting through this $49,090. I can see that happening. It's the $100,000 beyond that without extra help from these other sources isn't going to happen for a while. So I just want to make sure that people understand that, because I'm not going to support something anymore on this until some other things get taken care of around here. So I will make a motion to $29,024,090 that you're asking for, and $25,000 on top of that estimated to get this going. Make that motion right here, right now. So.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
And you still need that audio.
And I just wanted to thank you so much.
We'll put it in writing.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. It is volunteer work that comes with benefits.
Thank you. That is so awesome.
You're talking about CDs
That's great.
for the big project. That was
Is that your son?
Oh, that is my son, yes. He was thrilled.
Can we get your dad's time?
That's great. And it's wonderful to get to see him.
I want to give a shout out, since I got so much positive. He had helped me on the first day that we were surveying on that.
Oh, that's
It was
awesome.
a bitterly cold November day. He was a trooper until about 4:30, and then he was going to take the prison rod and put it right through me. I said, "We're done for tonight. Let's go home and regroup and finish the business."
Thank you so much.
But you also have a witness for your wife. So.
I do. You know what? No, he can be bought. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Ross, thank you so much. Okay. Okay, capital asset protection plan.
the first thing I did is I took the state line I had. So flip it. So if you want to do something with that,
So that way you can, oh, you can flip it.
so there are actually there are a few things that we're going to cover in one fell swoop here, and it all kind of, number one, this has been like since September till beginning of September till now, all of this is taking place. And what we're talking about is the school business authority, which they finally brought out into the public, and that's the $20 million available for shovel-ready projects. They finally had direction on that. That was in late August, actually. then we knew we had to do our 5-year plan, and we knew we had to do our capital, our housing aid forms for 2016, but we were waiting for all that, the clarity of what was happening, because a few things have changed, but so it all kind of came together like a perfect storm, and we weathered it swimmingly. So I'll walk you through the capital asset protection plan, and then as we go through it, I'll bring the things that highlight that we need to actually take action on. So I know we have some new members from the capital asset protection plan. That's a 5-year look to the future of what do you think projects in the district need to be done. They look at what we call the envelope, which is the ceiling, walls, floors, and then they look at the mechanicals, and then they look at the grounds. And it used to be very straightforward. You could just do what I've done here and submit the paperwork. But they've complicated that, and I'll get into that in a moment. So why do we do all that? It's on the second page. This was actually a PowerPoint production that's with the heading housing need. And those are the laws about why you need to do it. A few highlights. The housing aid provides funds to the district to upgrade or repair fixed assets or new construction. It is not for furniture, fixtures, and equipment except as new construction. Based upon wealth and student population. In 2007, that's when things really changed. And that's where they introduced more rigor into the process. And then this year, Article 9 of the fiscal year 2016 budget created that school business authority, which will fund projects up to $1 million, greater than 10,000, up to $1 million. And they have $20 million available for projects that will be substantially completed by August 31st, 2016, so just about a year. And then the third page, the submittal processing example. So I will submit to Rhode. These are the projects I think we're going to do in 2016. And they're really just a placeholder. It kind of helps them with their budget for budgetary purposes. And then at the end of the school year, I would say these are the projects we need to do. And those are what they call F100 and F105 forms. And if you go down on page 3, the example I gave, this was actually this year's work. So last year at about this time, I notified the Department of Ed that we would be doing about $800,000 worth of projects. And it centered on security, and it was later in the year when I told them it was tennis courts. But it was always in this range of dollar value. And they allow me to limit. They're very fluid in that part. They're kind of looking at that dollar value, again, for their budgeting purposes. July 15, 2015, I submitted the forms that said the project that we're doing, which was the tennis courts and the security, was going to cost $835,000. I knew, because we were coming off of a 5-year plan, the maximum amount that I had available, or that the district had available for budgeting purposes from Rhode was $708,000. Didn't matter how much we spent, that was all they were going to reimburse on. So BWG will be reimbursed at 65% of the cost, or $708,000 times 65%, or $460,000 this year. And those payments will come in October and April. So our capital reserve fund will be replenished this year to $460,000 just on our return on the projects we did. And I'm waiting for the audit to see what we end up with this year. I don't think there's going to be much in there, but again, looking at our reserves is certainly action that the school community can take as we go forward this year.
Is that half and half, those two papers?
Pardon?
Half and half, those two papers?
Yes, yeah, roughly 8 packs or so that we're calculating up there, but it's roughly half and half. So now we go to page 4. So the capital project, the 5-year plan that I created, and I don't want anything, I'm just sitting in my office doing things, it's, you know, all of the school committee meetings, it's working with Mr. Conley. There is still this residual of a book of business from the $5.8 million bond. But all in all, we're in very good shape as a district. I've got $1.7 million for the next 5 years, and I'll walk you through each one quickly. But in just a subsequent meeting since this document went to press and meeting with Lewis, I'll identify the 2 projects where we said you can easily add additional money to that. But again, this is for budgetary purposes. So then I go, so that's the overall, that's the total page. And then page 5 is, this is what we could do this year. So for 2016, if you look at that, there's on the far right-hand side, the total column is $457,000. And so if you look at the line of safety emergency egress of $50,000, that's a project that, in addition to our early learning director, Mrs. Corsi, she's working on a grant and she's trying to get a $50,000 grant. And one of the things that we're looking at, if you look at line overhead, is the building, which we call the stick, and then the round classroom job, that's the lollipop. So if you go to the stick and then the transition where the lollipop is, the kids go in and out of the building, down a road, and then up onto the playground. And for early learning, that's a big no-no. So what they want to do is come out of where the stick and the lollipop meet and go right onto the playground there, which means changing the fence, changing the existing cement wall, changing the grade of the land, making it handicap accessible, ADA accessible. I had that just as a placeholder, $50,000 to match the $50,000 grant that Mrs. Corsi is trying for. Lewis said you could easily add another 100 to that because that amount of work is going to be serious. You're going to be cutting. Been doing a lot of engineering with that. It's really all about slope. You know, it's how rise for EPA is like millions, so we really go back and forth. That is safety for the students, emergency egress during a crisis situation. That is priority 1 and 2 as far as the $20 million shovel-ready projects go for the SBA. So I will probably put that on Rhode's agenda to say, well, this is something that we're looking at. The security and access, I did, I vacillated between $800 or $900 depending on the building for the install, for the camera and the device. The conduit and everything's running, it's just chasing the wires and dropping in cameras. And by all accounts, it's going pretty well right now, and I really think once we get it up, people will start to identify areas where they want more cameras.
So I thought that wasn't reimbursable.
They're not. It never hurts. It never hurts to try. You know, we always go forward and wait for them to tell us no. So I have that across all the buildings, and again, keeping in mind that we're phasing, I added in my mind, I think that we're going to add 3 cameras a year in each building for the next 5 years. Just keeping in mind that when they did Lincoln High School, they have over 110 cameras there. So, safety classroom doors. Okay, this is Metcalf. The Metcalf teachers are gone. The classroom doors at Metcalf, they have different mechanisms depending on where you are in the building.
What happened to Wallow?
Wallow, I don't have anything. I just have the security there. But we can come back.
But I want to add something to that.
Okay.
I would like to see us move that safety level in place
there's, we'll see that, remember Kissinger, when we get to the wall page. This is just the overall 2016. Yeah.
Oh, you're on the summary page.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, there is, we're going to, as we move through this, there's some action we'll take tonight, will get us going into the queue, and then we can always modify it. So that's the beauty of this thing. So I'm not going to bore you by going through each one. What is the funding status? July 1st? Okay, so I'm thinking it's going to be about $55,000 in the capital reserve based on the audit that's ongoing right now. Then you can see our general fund, unassigned general fund balance. You can see that the school committee has already taken action to commit $312 for revenue stabilization. That is, when you look at the projections, if you look at available from surplus, that's what that covers the shortfall in stated. And then the $57,000 for technology uses. The housing aid will be $460, and then during 2015-16, the committee can take action to clear fund balances, and we still have our some other funds that we can identify as the year goes on at the appropriate time. What does the committee need to do next? So the superintendent needs to send a letter of intent that they're going to be doing projects during 2016, and that we will be applying for the Small Business Authority $20 million shovel-ready program. I want to have the committee approve the continuation of the architect services. We'll come back to that. Establish a building committee per Rhode guidelines. That I'll get to. And then one of the things that's going to happen if the committee approves the architect services, we get the building committee in place, is that part of stage one is the architect performs the school needs assessment. And really, he's going to take our capital plan and then he'll identify some other things. There's not a real lot of mechanical on my side. I think we're pretty good in that area, but he follows a whole protocol and he will come back he'll produce a report and then we can modify. I just want to be clear to the committee. What we're trying to do tonight is say, discuss this. We know we're going to go forward with the plan. We're going to hire an architect. We're going to submit a 2016 plan. That plan may be modified, but we're in the queue. And they won't even talk to us until we get this going. They're saying you've got to give us your plan. Even if you modify it, you've got to get it. Because none of this really happens till the spring. Modify, so the architect performs the school needs assessment, and that's pretty intense. We can talk about that a little more when we get into it. Modify the cap based upon the needs assessment. I put SAP, it's actually small business, the school business authority. Review stages, they review stage 2, and work with Rhode on the review and approval for a March 16 project. So we have time, but we want to do our due diligence and get it. So what was in that little PowerPoint you have right here, there is the by school. If you go to, it's the 5-year capital plan, and I apologize, I did not look at this. 5-year capital asset protection plan 2016-20 district asset protection plan totals. That's where you see by building roughly what we would be spending based on the plan as it sits without the needs assessment. And then I just going by school, I do admin, Walloon, junior, senior. Two of the highlights, I'll go right to
procedure, if you would, for I had the floor leveling in, here we go. Safety level and replace gym floor, I had at $130,000 out in 2018.
I'd like to see that.
Okay. If you look just,
We've been talking about it far too long.
there are two that are hot button items I feel that the committee has been working on. That one I think we could get priority 1 and 2 for safety and improvement to classrooms. I had put the playground in front of that because that is a much bigger discussion. The only thing I was looking at was parlay, if we could work at line into parlay the line work in the wall. But there's nothing that says that line has to do it. I think, again, I've said it again, the real goal tonight is to say we've got a document, we've got it on paper, we're submitting it to Rhode, we're having the needs assessment, we will evaluate it in by March 1st, so we'll know exactly what we're going to do.
That's going to be prioritized.
So it's and then I would just say, one of the things that, I'm only going to say this, I have no opinion on it, because I know it's a hot topic with the school committee. They thought the emergency generator for the junior, senior high school was a slam dunk for $582. That's
In this
a discussion among the committee. I know how you all feel about it to a degree, and that's just out there. For the folks who weren't here, we looked at that and we had a low bid of I want to say 250 and a high of 350 when we originally looked at this a couple of years ago. So I'll move off of that if I can. And then I would go to this section, which is the improving Rhode Island public schoolhouses with the school business authority. And I would move to page 4 is, and they use some jargon interchangeably, and it's like Joe, which one are you talking about here actually? So the fast track repair program is basically, I think, where the district is poised, at least now for the next few years. And that is using our capital reserve. You know, the major projects are starting to go into bond, and you're starting to get in over $1 million per project. Not a single one of our projects is $1 million. I think when we did these roofs at the junior for the district, they were over $1 million. So that's where that kind of made sense. But we would be going along the fast track repair program. And so LOI due by the 15th of September. Stage 1 due by November 1st, so that would be really soon the necessity of construction. Stage 2 due by March 1st. Stage 3, we would, begin that discussion and we're ready to go in the spring. So that's kind of the path we would be following there. This is page 6. It kind of just shows you the letter of intent to let them know we're taking it seriously, that the highest authority, governing authority of the school committee is on board. And they're going to have to nominate the LOI, the 8 elements are in there on page 7. Page 8 is the biggie. Page 8 is the biggie. Obviously, or not, there's a superintendent, there's obviously Mark and he have been on board.
All remain. So
Bill Plumley would remain. Representatives of the office, so that's all
everybody above. The school principal, they're involved, they attend on a need to know as we get into specific things, specific projects that would come on board. Member who has knowledge of the education, mission, function, and the function of the facility. That could be the teacher. Right, exactly. I think they're looking for someone other than me.
Okay.
You know, no, I mean, it's your, local budget official or member of the local finance committee. Again, we don't have that, but it's certainly, I think 7 and 8 kind of is that outreach to liaisons to the towns. You know, I know but I'll defer to the committee. I think Mike's Avalia would be great for number 8. But again, I don't, so we can put that list together and improve.
The towns have to appoint persons.
No. Like, we've approached the towns and asked them if they want.
Possibly possible.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had good representation in the past. I have no, I would suggest that if we need to do this, we should send a letter to the 2 towns and ask them if they want to have a representative to be on the building committee. I mean, we've had.
And then, I don't know if this is a standalone school building authority capital fund. Again, it just, it provides examples. And I think this is what, by the end of the last meeting, which I am quickly approaching my feebleness here, what I was trying to explain is that we would be on this page here, it says school business authority. On the back, I give examples. The district submits invoices, so under the school building authority capital fund, the district submits invoices to the school building authority on a monthly basis. District X receives 60% reimbursement on each monthly invoice. In this example, it's a total of $600,000 during the design and construction stages. So we would be fronting the money we're paying, just much like we're doing in the reimburse us, except they want to do it on a monthly basis.
And I'm money fast.
I honestly, I don't even, you know, so some of these things are like they contradict. I'll just give you an example of sometimes how they are overbrief if I could. On page 4, and the fast track repair program, after stage 4, there's an asterisk. Once statewide schoolhouse assessment 16 is complete, LEAs that are applying to the fast track program can use assessment data for stage 1 to expedite process and save funding. So they can ride thought that by this year, they would have every school district in the state evaluated by an engineer that they choose and do all the school needs assessment. And then they would have a complete picture of comparing apples to apples instead of 36 districts all doing their own thing. And the architects got together and said, it will never happen. So 3 of them have been together to try and achieve this initiative. And they're saying it won't be done until 2019. So while it's honorable, it's not probably. But there's always a silver lining, right? So what the state did for us, you folks, is they issued an RFP for civil engineers, architects, electrical engineers, and they issued the RFP 753-7383, and the architects had to respond. And based on their response, they were graded. And if your architectural firm is on there, you can pick that number to do. And so, I will pass this around for the video. I just was made aware it's posted So if we go down the list, they're ranked 1 to 20, and you can see the incumbent that we use is Rhode architect. The double asterisk, which is at the key at the bottom, MBE, that's minority business enterprise. That's one of the criteria that you have to meet when you do these projects. WBE is another one that you have to meet. So when we do the projects, we'll have to contract with somebody with a business that's owned by a woman. Toronto, his rates are consistently the lowest, and they were graded on other things. He looks like he got a deduction in score for the technical resources. So that was just, there may be other firms that tech savvy than him as far as creating the PDFs and everything, but he is now doing that. So given the timeline, given the body of work, given the policy that says, we look to use locals, and Toronto is a member, a resident of Exeter. We've had good success with him in the past. He often acts as the clerk of the works for us when we don't have one. I would go forward and recommend that we stick with Toronto Associates at this time.
Before we get to that, I know that's next. What are you asking for on this from us?
So let's go back to so we are looking to approve the capital asset protection plan. Okay. And keeping in mind that can be modified and changed. That will come based upon the needs assessment that will be performed. So we're looking to approve the capital asset protection plan. As that sits right now, it's $1.7 million over the next 5 years, $467,000 in the year 2016.
Capital asset protection plan, but I would like to see that floor moved to next year, so that I want those that in next year's.
We'll talk about that part of the motion, but we'll discuss that going forward after our information goes, right? So just move the capital asset protection plan going forward.
How hard is it to pick a number from one column to another column?
You know, from 17 and 16. I'm fine with all I think that I don't. I don't know, we can talk about all projects right now.
I understand that.
I can move it different. I mean, it wouldn't be anything to move it different or placeholder. If that's the will of the committee, I can certainly move that forward. I think where the committee is going to take a firm, concrete action is when we say, these are the projects we've submitted. Now, which ones are we really going to do? Which ones are we going to bid and go for? And that will take school committee action. The simple submittal, like the tennis courts and the security, I had put in Florida, I had put in 5 other projects, but we only chose those ones. So this isn't the final action. That's what we would probably be targeting the first of the year, probably, and it would dovetail nicely into the budget discussion, and then you're going to have to bid and get bid specs together. But it would be probably the first March bid approval. So that would come again to the committee for, those are what we put forward, this is what we're going.
I'll second.
What's Patrick's thoughts? a 5-year capital asset protection grant in the amount of $1.7 million. And it's these. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Abstentions? So we have the architect.
So just to make sure we don't lose it, I know in the past, this has been like an agenda item, but always gets overcome by other things. We really need to pick a meeting, maybe it's January, that's the only thing we'll talk about. We gotta get it done. Because otherwise, we always, it's 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I know.
So if we could do that, no, I mean, it's actually.
Capital asset, prioritizing projects.
And I fully get it, and I was talking to Craig,
No, this is fine now, but.
This is a good idea. Yeah. What, it's about putting the building committee together. When is that, how's that going to
So I think we could probably, so I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but there are committee members who are liaisons to the towns. They could inquire, or it could come out of my office, superintendent's office, just a pro forma letter, with form to know the committee, would you like to participate?
Yeah, why don't I put that in my
Do that. And that pretty much is the outreach to the community. I will definitely reach out to Mike, see if he'd be interested, because he's.
You should talk to my wife.
Reach out to him. So, he's a good
Sounds
son.
like a ball.
Yeah.
So that would
Okay, so
be.
you're getting a little bit of town members. Parking makes a bridge, continue to serve, I'm fine with that. You're okay with that? Okay, Bill.
Principles.
Principles as needed.
You know, again, if it's, so if you were going to be doing a gymnasium for gym teacher, let's say, that's where,
That makes sense. So do you have everybody that you need? Yeah. And I'm sure. And you too.
Do you want to-
So then you'll have everybody committee.
and then again, you know, the recommendation to stay with Toronto at this point, we could certainly go out to bid. It would delay us somewhat.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I'll make a motion to approve architect services and contract with Toronto to continue.
Any discussion?
Yeah, the only comment that I have is I was not very happy with the performance on the tennis courts with him. Did a nice job with security, but the tennis courts had dropped the ball. So,
I think his sub on that.
that's fine, but I just.
But we can voice that going forward because there will be spillover, obviously. And I did notice, you know, that, this is a great tool for the district. I'll provide that again in correspondence. It has every sort of engineering that we would need. Could give us options.
I mean, I'm okay with it for now, but I think, you know, we need to have a discussion with them. I mean, that drainage system, there shouldn't have been any coming back in the drainage system. That should have been done. It should have been a no-brainer, and he should have stepped up and taken care of it when the state was problem. We shouldn't have had any further involvement. And he did, give him credit, he did on the atriums.
Okay.
Made a motion, someone second.
All those in favor? That's opposed. Okay. Jim, we have a policy.
Next policy is tolerance. So Bill does a lot of review of updated regulations, submitted this consistent with the regulation for the HPV vaccination, which is a new requirement for the Department of Health required to start with grade 7. The only change is adding requirement starts at grade for this new vaccination, and then outlining what that looks like under section 5. The nice thing about this is that the Department of Health has not only outlined the requirement, but they've also expanded the definition of the religious exemption so that individuals can submit the religious exemption, and it still allows us to be compliant with the Department of Health regulation. We did get information from the junior senior high school nurse doing sites. We have 153 seventh graders. As of Friday, we had 146 that were vaccinated, 12 religious exemptions, and 5 temporary exemptions. And those exemptions are for individuals who have submitted some kind of a plan about if parents have a doctor's appointment, it's in place, you're not allowed to exclude a child if the plan is in place. So that covers all 153 of the students, which means at the current time we are 100% compliant with the regulation. I wanted to just say that we've been on top of this since last year. The 7th grade requirement packet was handed out to 6th graders in September or October of last year. The 6th grade health record audit was done at the end of the school year, and an individual list was given to every student that had anything missing necessary for the immunization as part of the start of 7th grade. They also received a copy of the new requirements at that time. Nurse site sent a letter in July to each parent of students who were still missing any of the required immunizations. In August, another letter went home. Included a copy of the requirements, the HPV vaccination information sheet, and the religious exemption form with the expanded definition, because it became clear that they were being a little bit more lenient with that. She was checking the statewide vaccination registry that we have access to in the district to track the kids that have received their immunizations over the summer. And then when the school year started, anybody that was still unaccounted for, there were individual phone calls that were made so that a conversation took place with parents. In addition to that, she has set up for tomorrow evening a clinic that will be run by the Department of Health for any kid who has any missing vaccinations whatsoever. But the focus, she originally thought the focus would be on kids that needed to have this done, whose parents were going to allow for the immunization without the religious exemption. So we even have a plan in place, and we're already 100% compliant. So she did a lot of work to communicate a number of points along the way, and have a report that as of Friday, we're good. Of course, the 5 that had temporary exemptions, I'm still proof that they either did the actual immunization or that parents filled out the religious exemption, but no one has been excluded in our district. So that's where we are.
So I just want to go over the Rhode Island general laws as to why we're amending our policy. So we're all on the same page. So Rhode Island general law, Rob, can you make this part of the record also, please? Rhode Island general law 23-1-1-18. The Department of Health is the agency that provides the minimum standards for immunizations and testing. You don't have to realize diseases, including not limited to tuberculosis, in employees, children, and students of any child daycare center, family daycare home, private nursery school, and any other regular program providing educational services to preschool-age children, public or private school, college, or university. Under Rhode Island General Law 16-38-2, immunization, every person upon entering any public or private school, including any college or university in this state as a pupil, shall furnish to the administrative head of the school evidence that the person has been immunized against any diseases that may, from time to time, be prescribed by the regulation of the Director of Health. Under the rules and regulations pertaining to immunization, communicable disease testing in preschool, school, colleges, and universities of the Department of Health, Section 2.1, preschools and schools shall adopt at a minimum the standards of immunization and communicable disease testing in 3.0 of these regulations. 3.0 of the regulations, actually 3.3.7, has now been edited to provide for HPV vaccine. Under Rhode Island General Law 16-2-9, that's the general powers and duties of the school committee. School committees are to provide for and ensure for implementation of federal and state laws, the regulations of the Board of Regents for elementary and secondary education, and of local school policies, programs, and directives. So, if you follow that chain, we need to amend our policy accordingly, and that's what we did. Comments?
I'm just curious because we don't really list any of the other vaccines we never really have. It's in the laws. Why do we have to specifically list this one? You know what I mean? We don't list anything, measles shot, this shot, that shot.
Yeah,
Just the only one in our policy is now very specific. You know, the others, obviously.
It's because this one is administered at a different time other than pre-enrollment.
The first thing after the seventh was a graduate.
Well, there are a number of other things. It's not where we
I don't think
I
it's,
just don't
I
know.
don't see it
Specifically saying it's ridiculous.
I don't see it as a negative. I mean, we have to comply with it. We always
I'm
list
concerned
that
that
out.
they say there's religion, we can object on religious grounds, but we can also object philosophically, and that's not written. And I understand parents can object philosophically, and I just wish that was written.
It's religious.
It's under the religious exemption, but it really isn't for religious reasons. It could be for any real personal reason. It doesn't have to be because your religion does not agree with it or is contrary to it. So it's really unclear, I think, because parents can choose not to give their children these immunizations. Personally, I have no issue my kids have all been immunized, but I just feel it's not clear. And parents can choose not to.
That's an exception to our health.
I know, I'm pointing it out, like Diane just pointed out, pointing out that parents need to know they have an option of not letting their child be immunized.
They do. I think we've done it. I think the school's done a fabulous job. We're doing all this with the parents. We have to check supplies.
Just also observation.
Is there language in the religious exemption that also stays philosophical, or is it just kind of a general?
I haven't read it.
It doesn't say it does. It doesn't really. It seems like the Department of Health has said philosophical recently with it, but I wonder if the paperwork. They include it in it. That's what they say, but like you said, it's on the paper.
But it says a medical or religious exemption. And again, I don't think philosophical and religion can go hand in hand.
But actually, when you go on, it says that anything.
Yeah, down here it says it.
You know, I know some kids with immune problems, various other problems, they can't take them.
The exemption form I have, and it is called the religious communication exemption certificate. And it only talks about religious in the form and verbally, the Department of Health has exemption more broadly, but the official paperwork that must be submitted is on the religious exemption. It's the only form that they have available. So it is, I mean, that's the reason why it says religious.
So it sounds like we've handled it in our communication, which is what we're required to do.
Every word,
So my other, I guess my question is, you mentioned temporary waivers. Is that going to be something you're doing? The reason I ask is, I guess I'd be concerned about the person who moves into our district in August, and has no idea, and all of a sudden they have to do this. So
Don't
we
they have
always
to have, don't they have to have an appointment?
right, but that requires a temporary waiver, right? So allow us the process for being in.
That's actually fine with the policy too.
As long as we
Been there,
I think they have 6 months.
as long as we allow, we take care of that situation.
I mean, my advice to the nurses, particularly at the junior senior high school, because grade 7 is what gets hit the hardest. We have to do everything possible to keep kids in school, even if that means setting up our own clinic, so that parents can just drive to the school and take care of what they need to take care of. But, so tomorrow night, there is the clinic that was set up for any kids that are immunizations, but we're already at 100%.
Spreading things out. My kids have shots. Take one this month, I'll come back, virus and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, but we're spreading things out.
I'll make a motion to accept policy 8703.
Second. All in favor? Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
I'm going to abstain.
I will too. 2 abstentions. 3 abstentions. Any opposed? Bob, give her your state.
Excuse me?
Give her your state.
Yes.
Reserve capital project complete. We'll probably talk that, right? So we'll go in the face. Reports and comments.